Thank you all for being here. It's so nice to see many faces that I know and many faces I look forward to learning with. And most importantly, the smiling face, which on my screen is to my left, of Rabbah Yaffa Epstein. My name is David Singer. I'm the National Director of Limmud North America, and I'm going to be moderating this session today. It's been incredible to join with 1,000 of you today from across the continent and the globe, learning together virtually during these unprecedented times. Suzanne Swift, who's apparently in this session, is sending me text messages saying my smile looks big. So yes, my smile is big because I am so happy to be learning with so many of you. Limmud North America's mission, you may have already heard today at another session, is to animate Jewish community by connecting Jews of diverse backgrounds with transformative learning and each other. We will not let this crisis get in the way of our work. If you enjoy today's program, please stay tuned for more virtual learning opportunities with Limmud North America, including the next eFestival. Time to get excited already. Coming back just before Shavuot on May 24th. Please remember, if you would like to ask a question of Yaffa, you can write in the chat window on the bottom right corner of your screen. If there is not a chat window there, press the chat button and that will make the chat window appear. Or you can press the raise hand button in the participants window, and then we will call on you, time and presenter permitting. With all of that and no further ado, it's my honor to introduce to you Rabbah Yaffa Epstein, who serves as the director of the Wexner Heritage Program. She was formerly the director of education for North America for the Pardes Institute of Jewish Studies. She received rabbinic ordination from Yeshivat Maharat and holds a law degree from Bar Ilan University and has studied at the Talmud Department of Hebrew University. Yaffa taught Talmud, Jewish law, and liturgy at Pardes for over 15 years and served as the founding director of the Beit Midrash at the Dorot Fellowship in Israel. She has lectured at Limmud events around the globe. Let me just I need to qualify this statement. She has lectured prolifically at Limmud events around the globe. She is one of our most sought after, appreciated, and adored presenters, and it's just such a treat that we all get to learn with her today. And she's written the curriculum for the Global Day of Jewish Learning, and has created innovative educational programming for Hillel, the Foundation for Jewish Campus Life, and Moshe House. She has participated in numerous think tanks on adult Jewish education and has trained rabbis and educators from every Jewish denomination. Ladies and gentlemen, Yaffa Epstein.
Oh, thank you so much. Wow, what a kavod. David, thank you so much. Thank you for all of your amazing work in making this happen. I actually want to start with just tremendous gratitude to Limmud North America for the incredible work that you do, have done, are doing, and will do for the Jewish people and to the benefit of all of us. It is really, I have to say, like, I'm really incredibly moved. My heart is like very full, seeing all these beautiful faces from all Limmuds around the world, and friends and colleagues and teachers and of mine, and just what an honor it is to be here. And all of you for being here. It's not so simple to be on Zoom again for those people who are working online, and it's really quite beautiful to see. Like, it's just gorgeous to see it. If anyone wants later on, I'll be at the bar. We can have a little, just kidding, l'chaim, but seriously, it's really just wonderful. We got to do that in between sessions schmooze fest for just a few minutes, which was really quite beautiful. So it really feels like Limmud, and it's great to be with you all. So I actually am a little nervous, I'll be honest with you, because I've very rarely, I actually don't think I've ever taught an online session of this magnitude. And usually those of you who know me and have learned together with me in the past know that my style of teaching is very interactive. And it's a little bit more challenging to do that on Zoom. So I'm just going to admit my nervousness, and I'm going to try and make it interactive as much as we can. And I have some ideas and thoughts about how to do that, but we're all in it together. And Karen said, because I just sit still. Yes, also I'm sitting down, also very rare for me. So it's a challenge, and I hope that it's still a really fun and rewarding learning experience, all of us together. But I'll also say that I'm nervous because we're living in some really unprecedented times for us all. And this is simultaneously a really, really hard time. And right now I'm feeling tremendous joy. And so thinking about what it means to hold that. But I think also one of the things that I really wanted us to do is to talk about Pesach. Because in many ways, I think that for a lot of people, it's really daunting thinking about what it means to celebrate Pesach this year, given all of the sort of realities that we're living in. I think it's really on people's minds, and I wanted to start talking about it. But I'll tell you the truth, which was when I agreed to do the session 2 weeks ago, and then when I thought I was going to be talking about this week, I thought I could talk about the concept of memory, which is what the session was supposed to be about. But as I was preparing for the session more and more, I will be honest, and being completely honest, I was like, this doesn't feel super relevant to our moment. Like, what does it mean to talk about memory when we're really so present in our reality? And so I've shifted, those of you who want to talk about power, we're not really going to talk about power right now. So sorry about that. But I've shifted a little bit the class because just to make it feel a little bit more real to me in terms of what we're going through right now. So I wanted to start off with a piece by Mitch Albom. Some of you might know him from his book, Tuesdays with Maury. And he has written many, many, many other books and columns. And he's a prolific writer and journalist and thinker. And he writes a lot about what it means to confront death. But he wrote a piece, it's the first source on your pages, source number 1. And hopefully you all have the source sheet. If you don't, please just write in, I don't have the source sheet, and we'll try and get it for you. But I'm gonna put it again one more time in the chat. So hopefully all of you should be able to see it and download it. And I'm actually gonna ask for, this is where I'm gonna keep, I'm gonna try to be interactive. I'm gonna ask the first person I see with the hands raised, I'm gonna call on them. So I have a volunteer to read for us, source number 1, hand raised. Okay, Nancy, take us away. Nancy Kaplan. Yes. We're gonna unmute you. Can we unmute? Yes, unmute.
I'm sorry, are you saying you want me to read?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Wow, like in the real room, okay. During this crazy time, when the world feels like it's hurtling forward and screeching to a halt at the same time, people who have columns, microphones, or TV cameras should not be above the message of we all need to pull together. We should be part of it. This means balancing the stories we tell, checking the facts, putting them in perspective, recognizing that none of us are experts, and yes, thinking about the emotional effect of what we do, not just slapping every incendiary theory, story, or expert into a headline. Because we must be concerned with more than just our bodies in the coming months. We need to protect our minds. Should I keep going? As we pull up the covers on our lives, staying inside, eschewing gatherings, skipping work, schools, churches, and parties, we will become more and more dependent on the media to reflect our outside world. Television hours will increase mightily, internet time will zoom. People may actually read the newspaper front to back. And if we only do stories about how bad it's getting, how many more new cases have been detected, how unprepared this institution or politician was, how this or that expert is predicting this many deaths and that much contagion, well, we will quickly become a very depressed nation, and a dark national mood is dangerous for society, for the economy, for the future. It will lead to more panic, more anger, more people grabbing every roll of toilet paper for themselves. As much as we need to control the spread of the virus, we need to control the spread of hopelessness. It is every bit as debilitating.
Okay, phenomenal. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you so much. And just one more sentence that he says right at the end, which is finding the negative may be the media's inclination, but finding the positive is now our obligation. Which I just think is such a beautiful sentence. Nancy, that was great reading. Thank you so much for doing that for us. And I was very touched by this piece. He's speaking specifically to columnists and people of the media here. And it's worth reading the whole piece. I really sort of cut and paste pieces that I thought were relevant for us today, but you have the link to the whole article. And I think his main message here is we have control of the narrative. And he also says here, right, that we have to be realistic. We have to tell the story about how severe the situation is, and we can't allow it to lead us to hopelessness. And I think, and we have an obligation actually to find the positive. So in many ways, I think sort of that's the charge for us for Pesach this year. I think what's interesting, and I'm just going to sort of put my premise right out there at the beginning. Usually I do it right at the end, but since we're on Zoom, I'm trying a new thing, which is, here's my premise, my friends. Here's my thought. Normally, in our Siddurim, in our experiences of the Seder, we are free people who are trying to feel what on earth slavery felt like, right? Like, how are we going to do it? We do all these things to try to make ourselves feel as if we were in Egypt. And I think this year, here's what I'm positing. I think this year we're actually in Egypt and we're trying to make ourselves feel like free people. It's a very different year this year, where we're actually in the Mitzarim, we're in Mitzrayim, we're in the narrow places, and we're trying to remember what it felt like to be free. So what I want to think about is, what does it mean to tell a story? What does it mean to use narrative and the power of storytelling to help ourselves feel free again in this time of narrowness? That's really what I hope that we'll do for the next 37 minutes together. So I want to look with you, and now hopefully everyone has seen the link. You should all have the link to, it's there at the bottom of the chat. Hopefully you all have that. Please open that PDF because we're going to be very text-based as we are. I wanted to start with actually source number 2 on your pages. It's from Dvarim, Perek Kaf Vav, Deuteronomy chapter 26, wherein these are the verses that the Mishnah tells us we're supposed to say on Seder night. And lo and behold, they take up a big chunk of Magid, which is the part of the Seder wherein we tell the story. And it's actually, we're supposed to be reading these verses and be doresh them. We're supposed to expand upon them and explain them. And they are in fact a big part of our Seder. What's interesting about these verses, which are actually from Deuteronomy chapter 26, verses 5 through 10, more or less. What the biblical context is actually what we say when we bring Bikkurim to the temple. Everybody with me? Does that make sense? In other words, what the main section of the Seder that we interpret actually comes from, I'm sorry, 1 second. Sorry. Okay. Actually comes from what we say when we are bringing our first fruits to the temple. Now, why is that so interesting? I just want us to notice that. So let's look inside it. Deuteronomy chapter 26. Do I have another volunteer to read in English? First person to raise their hand. Okay, Norm, take us away. You have to unmute yourself though. Nope, sorry, Norm, 1 second. You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry, there.
There you go.
When
Okay,
you enter the land that Adonai your God is giving you as an heritage, and you possess it and settle it, you shall take some of every first fruit of the soil, which you harvest from the land that Adonai your God is giving you, put it in a basket, and go to the place where Adonai your God will choose to establish God's name. You shall go to the priest in charge at that time and say to him, I acknowledge this day before Adonai your God that I have entered the land that Adonai swore to our fathers to assign to us. The priest shall take the basket from your hand and set it down in front of the altar of Adonai your God. You shall then recite as follows before Adonai your God. My father was a fugitive Aramean. He went down to Egypt with meager numbers and sojourned there. But there he became a great nation, mighty and populous. The Egyptians dealt harshly with us and oppressed us. They imposed heavy labor upon us. We cried to Adonai, the God of our fathers, and Adonai heard our plea and saw our plight, our misery, and our oppression. Adonai freed us from Egypt by a mighty hand, by an outstretched arm and awesome power, and by signs and wonders. God brought us to this place and gave us this land a land flowing with milk and honey. Wherefore I now bring the first fruits of the soil, which you, Adonai, have given me.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Norm. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, so, right, so what's interesting about this is we notice this is the section of text I say when I bring my first fruits to the temple, which in and of itself is fascinating because effectively we're saying when you come into the land and you have fruits, crops to bring to the temple, what you do is tell the story of the Exodus. Like, what? Why don't you just say, thank you so much, this was so great? Or tell the story of, I tilled my land and now I have apples and now I have pears and now I have, I don't know if we have apples or pears in this time, but anyway, I should have said dates and figs, it's more correct, sorry, right? Right, and et cetera, of all these beautiful fruits that I'm bringing to the temple and I'm so grateful. Why do I have to tell the story of the whole story of the Exodus? Why not, I was this, then I had to do this, God saved me, right? So it's a very fascinating moment wherein effectively part of what I'm trying to engender in myself when I am holding the fruits of my land, which by the way is the ultimate success story, right? It's what I've been hoping for this whole time. The ultimate moment of success is to get into the land, right? And to have fruits to survive, to thrive. It's the ultimate symbol of redemption, effectively, right? Not just that I have not just that I'm in the land, but I actually have fruit, I'm settled, I'm safe, everything is great. But what's fascinating about that is I never forget that it was miraculous to get here, right? In fact, there's no greater moment, right, than when I have actual produce and I'm now self-sufficient to say, famously, right? Right? My hand did this, right? I am so amazing and powerful. No, says the Torah. That's going to be the moment when you remember, wait a minute, you didn't always have this land. You didn't always have this incredible bounty. I need you to go back to remembering that it all comes from God, even when you're settled, even when you're comfortable. Except, my friends, here's the great part of the story, okay? Who is this being told to? Who is being told when you come into the land, you're going, who is this being told to? You can chat it to me, Who is this being told to? Okay, good, that's right, the priest is hearing this happen, okay, good. Yaffa, well, someone said the generation who won't get there. Well, that's possible. All the people, I love this is great. Way to go, my friends. Okay, good, it's being told to all the people, but it's being told to us in Deuteronomy. So this is the generation of people, actually, who are going to enter the land. It's a great question whether or not they're going to be able to bring these fruits, but presumably these are people who are actually going to experience this. But this is the generation of people who did not leave Egypt. Right, Marianne, exactly. The people who do not have institutional memory, that's right. They did not experience this. It's an amazing moment, okay? So it's that I tell people, hey, when you come into the land, remember who you were, except it's not who you were, it's who your parents were. So do we understand this level? It's happening at 3 levels, okay? I'm already in the land and I have a bounty. I have to go back to my great-great-great-great-grandfather, okay? My wandering Aramean grandfather, okay? Now, what's amazing about that is, I don't know that person, I wasn't there, and I didn't experience any of this, but I tell the story, right, from the perspective of the generation who left Egypt, and I tell the generation that didn't leave Egypt to have that perspective when they get into the land, okay? So it's a multiplicity of levels of saying, I don't really care what happened. Exactly, Shoshana, exactly. The first time we were, right, I'm reading here, it's the first time we are to act as if we were all taken out of Egypt, exactly. And I think it's an interesting moment wherein effectively we are saying, wherever you are in this timeline, whether you're the generation that came out, the generation that didn't come out but is going into the land, the generation that is settled happily in the land, every single moment here, your job is to remember that you are part of this narrative. And the medium in which I do that is through telling the story, okay? The medium in which I ensure that you experience this is that at whatever stage you're at, if you're the ones leaving, if you're the one going into the land, finally, after all these years, or if you're the one already in the land and well settled, it doesn't really matter. Each of you has the same obligation to tell the story, Okay, now if we add to that source number 3 on your pages, Sefer HaChinuch, who comes along and he says the purpose, an underlying principle behind this commandment of Bikkurim is for a person to turn his thoughts to arrive at the truth in his heart and actualize it verbally. Okay, that actually the way in which the main purpose of this thing called Bikkurim is to let me understand what I have. This isn't about necessarily only thanking God, but it's about me internalizing so that I can verbalize. Okay, so part of what I wanted us to think about together is this capacity of what it means to internalize in order to verbalize, okay? That they're actually inherently connected. And then eventually we're gonna get to not just internalize to verbalize, but the verbalizing that I'm trying to do is effectively gratitude, right? Back to gratitude. Joey, this is specific to Bikkurim. Just reading some of these gorgeous comments over here. Sorry, I think are amazing. So, right, Yaffa. Okay, good. Bracha. Is this a bracha that I know? I don't know. Do I know you, bracha? Because I don't know your last name on here. But bracha's point is beautiful, right? Which is that hareza meshubach, right? The more that you praise, the better, right? We're not totally there yet, but that's exactly where we're going, right? This idea of actually extending our praise, because the point really is to get to that praise. The question is, especially in a year like this year, how do we get to that internalized experience, okay? And let's go on, my friends. And David, we didn't discuss this before, but I'm just kind of curious. David, tell me what you think about this possibility. Do you think we could, if not, we won't, but do you think we could break out for 7 minutes of chavruta? What do you think? Or is it just too difficult because we have 100?
We can absolutely do breakout rooms. I'd be happy to.
David says yes. All right. That's why he's David Singer.
How many people would you like in each
Executive Director
room?
of Limmud North America. Let's put 4 people in a room in case people feel like I don't want to be here and they peace out. Of course I'm going to run out of time, Nancy. That's who I am. But I do want to just do 7 minutes of chavruta, okay, team? Just 7 minutes of chavruta. On it's just one source, just source number 4, just one source for chavruta. You can do it. 7 minutes on source 4. We're going to do 4 in a room, David, and David's going to put us away magically.
All right, in 1 second,
Okay.
You will be redirected to a breakout room. How long should I keep everyone there?
7 minutes.
For 7 minutes, and you'll be brought back.
Source number 4, and there are questions on the bottom.
Source number 4, questions on bottom. Goodbye.
Okay, bye, team. Good luck. See you in 7 minutes. You can do it. No, I don't. Amazing. Well done, team. 7 minutes of chavruta. It's awesome. Well done. Okay. I never talk so much. It's so fun. Okay. Thanks for doing that. That was amazing. So hopefully you had a chance to look at Exodus 12, verses 1 through 28. And these are, good. I'm glad people have more questions. That's how it should be. That's exactly how it should be. So we'll come back now. And as many of you know, I like to say we're a giant chavruta, but this time we really are a giant chavruta of 170 people. But this section of the Torah, Exodus 12, verses 1 through 28, is what is famously known as Pesach Mitzrayim and Pesach Dorot, right? Which is the Passover that was celebrated in Egypt and the Passover that is to be celebrated for generations. And what's interesting sort of about it is there's a lot to unpack about what we do differently and what we do the same. And it's much shorter in the retelling, if you will, between verses 24 through 28. I will also just say that there's a machloket, there's like a beautiful disagreement about actually how to divide up 1 through 28, what part is considered what was done in Egypt, what part is considered what was done in, but what I'm sort of the most interested in, as you saw from my questions, is that it seems to be that the Torah here is describing a process of how the Jews are supposed to free themselves in Egypt, okay? And I'm purposely using that language because if you notice, there is actually a series of steps that goes up to Pesach Mitzrayim, the Passover that was celebrated in Egypt. And I want us to take a look at it because I think it's actually an incredible roadmap for us today about what we need to do as we experience, I'm going to keep claiming this, as we experience what it means to be in Pesach Mitzrayim, okay? So let's just look, and I'm going to read, and I apologize for so much of my own voice. I really want to hear your voices, so keep commenting and asking questions. I really want them. But Exodus 12 begins with, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, HaChodesh hazeh lachem Rosh Chodeshim, okay? And it's sort of a very famous, and a lot of what I'm going to say is very famous. Really, it's more about trying to understand how to apply it today in our lives. But this is sort of a very famous moment wherein this is seen to be, by the rabbis, the first mitzvah of the Torah, right? Meaning that everything up until now, all of Genesis and the first 11 chapters of Exodus were actually not commandments. It's basically just narrative, okay? In order to understand what it means to be a Jew, I have to sort of tell the story of the Jewish people in its familial context, okay? That's sort of the classic understanding of what, sorry, not the classic understanding, the rabbinic understanding, and that this is actually the first mitzvah. HaChodesh hazeh lachem, this month, i.e., according to the rabbinic understanding, and this is why, by the way, Midrash Halacha, rabbinic interpretation that is used to derive halacha, begins here in Exodus 12, okay? Meaning that I believe, if I'm a rabbi, that that the most important thing, the primary mitzvah, first mitzvah I've ever received is about time, right? Exactly as was just shared with us here, right? That actually, what it means to have the first mitzvah is to say, I am designated time, okay? Now, of course, we layer on the context of what it means to command a nation or a people or a family that is still in slavery to control its own time, right? That's an amazing move, right? Because actually, effectively, I don't get to control my time. The definition of what it means to be a slave is that I am not empowered to control my time. Someone else has power over me, okay? Of course, there's a tremendous amount of conversation to be had about gender issues and how that's brought down in halacha, but not for right now, okay, team? That's for next year's Limmud or next time's May, right? Erev Shavuot. That's for next times. But for today, it's just interesting to notice that what we're saying here is, even in your slavery, your obligation is to rule over your time to take. So that's step one of the Jewish people's exodus, begins with time, okay? Then we move on and we say the next thing is, right? Vayikchu lahem ish set levet avot, selabayit. Each one of them shall take a lamb to a family, a lamb to a household, okay? So the next step in their liberation is take a lamb. By the way, sorry, I skipped this, but the beginning of the pasuk, verse 3, is take it on a specific time. So now that I have specific time, I can take it on a specific time, and it's this taking, okay? The next step is, right, verse number 6, watch over it until the 14th day of the month, okay? So step 1, own your time. Step 2, take this lamb. Step 3, know what day to take your lamb on, right? Sorry, take this lamb on the specific day. Step 3 is make sure to watch over it until the 14th day, okay? And then slaughter it. And verse number 7, take some of the blood and put it onto the 2 doorposts, right? And the lintel of the house in which they are to eat it. Then verse number 8, eat the flesh that same night, eat it roasted over the fire, unleavened bread, bitter herbs. There it is, my friends, right? Matzah and maror. Don't eat it raw, don't leave it over, okay? Verse number 11, this is how you shall eat it. Your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it hurriedly. It is a Passover offering to the Lord, okay? And, oh, I love that, that's beautiful. Step 4 is another step. Be aware of what your neighbor has or doesn't have. Beautiful, very, very nice, right? So be aware of your community. Love that, that's gorgeous. So even an additional step here, right? So be aware of your surroundings, which is a very fascinating thing, right? And there's actually part of what I want to talk about a little bit is this outside inside, which I don't know if anyone else is experiencing right now, right? But what is outside and what is inside? And then sort of inside our homes, what are parts of our houses that suddenly feel very different than they did a little while ago, right? So there's a very fascinating outside, inside. For what purpose am I doing all of this, right? And then in my own home, who am I sitting with? Exactly as you're saying, right? Who am I sitting with? And what am I wearing? Okay, so effectively, if we sort of notice, right? Time, we take control of time. We take control of animals. We take control of our own identities, both inside and outside of our homes. And then inside of our homes, we have food, dress, and family. Right? So we have time, identity, food, dress, and family. I want to sort of talk a little bit about, and what is all of this to do? For that night, I'm going to go through the land of Egypt and strike down every firstborn, man and beast, and I will mete out punishments to all the gods of Egypt. I, the Lord, and the blood on the houses where you are staying shall be a sign for you. When I see the blood, I will pass over you so that no plague will destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. 14, this day shall be to you one of remembrance. You shall celebrate it as a festival to the Lord throughout the ages. You shall celebrate it as an institution for all time. Okay, and it's sort of an interesting moment, my friends, because I'm here. I'd like to hear your perspective. First of all of this. Number one, right? So we have here, as Don said, this is getting ready to take to the road, the last dinner, which is so great, right? I like the last dinner. It feels very conscious to me to say the last dinner, but what's fascinating here is, right, they're in a hurry, but is this true, my friends? Right, they're supposed to eat it in a hurry, but at this moment in Jewish history, here's my question. At this moment in Jewish history, are the Jewish people free? No, says Shoshana. Thank you. No, yes, says Jane. Okay, good. Okay, amazing. I'm calling on you now. Jane, please, Jane Shapiro, take us away. Tell me why yes. How do we unmute you?
Muted.
There we go. Okay, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
They are, because in sort of hearing the story and being there to hear what Moshe has to say and being willing to turn their bayit and bring people into their bayit to do these things, they're expressing agency of being free people in a way that they haven't been able to do before. So to me, they are acting now as free people, especially because they're taking what their neighbors worship into their houses and prepare to eat them. So that sounds like agency to me. So
amazing. Okay, so the one very important thing that Jane is pointing out that I sort of consciously skipped over on purpose. I just said take animals, but right, classically the way we understand what it means to take this selabai, to take this lamb, is about making a claim on identity and saying, you Egyptians worship this animal. We Jews do not, and not only do we not worship it, but we are going to slaughter it and use it as a symbol of our own identity, okay? So if you will, my friends, I wanted to make sure that we see this source number 5 on your pages. And Marianne, I want to come back to you with the no, because I think it's actually very important. Source number 5 on their pages is, right, why did the taking of the Pesach precede its slaughtering by 4 days? So this is the Mechelta, the halachic midrash on what we just read, verse number 6, right? Why do I have to take it and keep it for 4 days? It seems like sort of weird, right? Because why do I need to do that? And the answer is, this is actually a moment where they are declaring their freedom. Many of you are writing this in the chat, which is freedom is a state of mind, right? It's actually in our control. And Jane, this is what I think you're saying to us also, right? You can be free even if you're not free. You can be free mentally without being free physically. And in fact, my friends, I just want to say, many, many times the Jewish people have told the story of the Exodus of Egypt when they are not free. Many, many times, and they still have the obligation to, in fact, feel that freedom, right? So I think it's very interesting to sort of notice, and I would argue that the text is trying to teach me what it means to free oneself, take control of your time. And here in source number 5, the Mechelta is saying to us, take the thing that you yourself would worship also. It seems to be that the rabbis suggest Why did the taking the Pesach preceded slaughtering by 4 days? Because Israel was steeped in idolatry in Egypt. It's not true that they worshiped the lamb and we didn't. No, says the rabbis. We worshiped it too because we were immersed in Avodah Zarah. We were immersed in idol worship because that's the reality of being part of a culture. When you live in a culture, you assume its norms. That's true, right? And this moment of, first of all, taking our time, but then taking the same thing that we too worshiped and saying, no, we are going to differentiate ourselves. It takes us 4 days, right? Sort of an interesting thing to notice that it's not immediate. There's preparation necessary here, wherein I have to take this thing and for 4 days look at it and say, I am going to choose being part of the Jewish people, okay? What's interesting is that the Mechilta picks up on the fact that twice we are told that we are told to take this lamb, right? Once in verse 6 and once in verse 21. And why do I need both times, right? The second time teaches me withdraw, mashchu yadechem. What does it mean? Take your hands away from Avodah Zarah, right? V'hidabku b'mitzvot, and cleave to mitzvot. So there's something going on here wherein it's not just a sign of rebellion to take this lamb, but actually it's a sign of identity choosing. This is a moment of sort of choice. Now, what's amazing about that, my friends, is again and again and again, this passage is saying to me, you might be physically bound, but you have the capacity to be spiritually free with your time, with your own choice of identity. And here's where I think it gets amazing. Ready, team? Ready? Here's the really amazing midrash. The greatest midrash of all time. Okay? Yeah, I know. I say it every time. But look at this. Source number 6. Okay? Source number 6 on your pages. The question arises from, oh, that's a great point, Mira. Mira asks, is any rebellion not identity assertion? That's a great, great point. I think what I was trying to say is not just rebelling against the Egyptian as a nation, but actually as a theological choice. That's what I was trying to say. For themselves to say, I might have believed in this in the past, but I am actually not just asserting my Jewish identity, but in fact, my theological identity. So maybe it's 2 kinds of rebellion, if you will. Hope that that's clearer. Okay, so thank you for that question. So source, I have 4 minutes left. Source number 6 on your pages, team, ready? Is this amazing Mechilta, amazing midrash, also the halachic midrash here, which tries to offer 3 different explanations, okay? On the pasuk, and they shall place it on the 2 side posts and on the lintel, Exodus 12:7, which you guys read. You say mibifnim, they're working off the word mibifnim, inside. You say on the inside, but perhaps it should be placed on the outside. Therefore it is written, and I, God, will see the blood. Blood which is seen by me and not by others. These are the words of Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Natan says, what do you mean? On the inside. You say on the inside, but perhaps on the outside. It is therefore written, and the blood will be for you as a sign, right? Lachem la'ot, v'lo la'acherim la'ot. And Rabbi Yitzchak says, no. Actually on the outside. Why? Because I need the Egyptians to see. So there's actually, here the Midrash is trying to assert who is the symbol of the blood for, okay? If we see that as sort of the ultimate moment, who is the symbol of the blood for? Is it for me? Is it for God? Or is it for those outside my door, i.e. the Egyptians? And here's what I wanna suggest, which is we don't need to choose one answer here, right? The question of who is this all for? I want to suggest that the Midrash on purpose puts them all in one Midrash, right? And of course, later generations pick out different answers when they're convenient and when they want to say what they want to say. But I think there's something awesome about the Midrash saying to us that the question of who are we taking this animal for? Who are we spreading the blood on the doorposts for? The answer is 3 different answers. I'm doing it as a sign of my allegiance to God. I'm doing it as a sign to the Egyptians of my allegiance to the Jewish people. But I am also saying to myself, I also have to know who I am, right? That identity, and this maybe goes back to your point, Amira, sorry, is that my identity needs all 3. Okay, now here, I have 2 minutes left. Ready, my friends? here's what I want to suggest, that that's actually the point of Seder night as well. If you look at source number 9, the last source on your pages, actually, I would like to suggest that those same 3 answers about God, the other, and myself, the same reason I spread the blood on the doorposts is exactly what I'm trying to accomplish on Seder night, right? Because if you look at the steps, I actually have source number 9 tells me the 3 times the word obligated is used in this chapter of Tractate Psachim, which is important because it basically lays out the Seder. I'm told 3 different times. 1, I have to say these things, Pesach, Matzah, and Maror. I have to actually verbally say them, getting back to how we began this, right? What is the story that I'm telling? So I have to say the words Pesach, Matzah, and Maror. This is source number 9 on your pages. In the second paragraph, I have to see myself. So there's an emotional component. And then the last chunk here, therefore we are obligated to thank, praise, adore, glorify, extol, okay? And part of what's happening that we see again and again and again, both with, here's my big finish, ready? Both with Bikkurim, the first fruits, and with the experience in Egypt itself, and on Seder night, I say all of these things. I experience all of these things. I utilize all of these markers of identity, even when I haven't yet experienced it. I can use telling the story. I can use who I surround myself with. I can use food. I can use thanks, all of it to experience an experience that I haven't yet had. So this year, as we are in unique experiences, I just want to invite us to think about, even in Mitzrayim, even when we were in a narrow place, we had the capacity to not only free ourselves, but to experience an experience, not just to be free, but to actually have an experience that we had not yet experienced. And that, I think, is the invitation for Seder night, to bring us to this feeling of gratitude. And with that, I'm going to end. I'm happy to stick around and chat a little more if we're allowed to.
Yaffa, thank you so much
Thank you
for this
so much.
unbelievable session. I can keep this room open for a few minutes if anyone, and just unmute people if you want to stick around after everyone leaves to ask questions of Yaffa. But thank you. Invite everyone to take a little breather or a stretch or whatever you need in your actual real space before the next block of sessions, which begin in 8 minutes. And hope you continue enjoying Limmud eFestival. Thank you, Yaffa.
Thank you all so much. It was amazing to learn with you.